Hello, my name is Glenn Brand, Superintendent of Schools in the Acton-Boxborough Regional School District, and it's with pleasure that I have the opportunity to share with you today a little bit of the highlights of our upcoming FY17, or the 2016-17 school year budget. Currently, we're in the process of advancing forward this budget proposal to the school committee, and in the next few minutes, it's with great pleasure that I have the opportunity to share some highlights with our viewers about this current FY17 budget. It's a long drawn-out process here in this district, not unlike many others, where the budget building process begins almost as school gets underway in September, and will culminate with the hopeful fully supported vote of the school committee in early February at their public budget hearing. Obviously, the financial affairs of the district are incredibly important because they collectively work to support the services, our staffing, and all of the many other facets of our very large comprehensive district. And in the next few minutes, it's the opportunity to provide you with a little bit of insight in terms of what that budget building process looks like. As we go throughout the course of the budget presentations to the school committee, of which there are 3 prior to Budget Saturday that will take place on January the 23rd, there are a couple of key things that, from the administration standpoint, we look to try and advance. First, it's to inform an understanding of the financial picture and the district and how that directly relates to the services that we can provide for our almost 5,600 students throughout all of our 8 schools, as well as our preschool. It's hopefully along the way the opportunity to provide an insight and depth of understanding around the challenges, the opportunities and needs that the district faces along the way. In addition, to help clarify the resources that the administration believes is necessary to help support teaching and learning in the next school year, and ultimately to seek the support of our school committee and our respective town leadership in both Acton and Boxborough to help support this requested operating budget as we look ahead to providing school for our students in September. The budget development process here in Acton-Boxborough, I can tell you, is certainly very team-driven. And by that, what I mean is that it's a very collaborative effort amongst all of our building principals and central office administrators with a collective and wide-scale involvement to help identify our resource requests that are moving forward for this budget. It's comprehensive in the sense of seeking to provide the necessary fiscal resources for staff, for programs and services to meet the needs of our students pre-K through not just 12, but as well through actually age 22. The financial commitment of our district, like every other in the state, to provide for any necessary services up to that age. And it's also, in terms of the budget development, challenging. It's somewhat challenging to think about needing to identify all of the resource needs for our operations that really is almost half of a year or more away. So that is a reality that we face, but so too certainly do many other districts throughout the state. It's a long drawn-out process that began back in October with the requests going to our administrative team to try and begin to identify and hone in on their respective budget requests for next year. To this point in time, there have been 3 separate budget presentations delivered to the school committee that will be followed by, as I mentioned earlier, the Budget Saturday presentation on January the 23rd, and then ultimately February the 11th, the public budget hearing and vote for which we are obligated to have here in the state of Massachusetts, and an opportunity for continual public engagement. In terms of the stages of the budget building process, there are many that the administration embarks upon. First off, an identification of our fixed costs. Those include things like our salaries and contract commitments. We need to, as part of this process, estimate the revenue that we receive from the state, and there are significant resources that help offset the costs and supplement those. There are a number of legal mandates that we need to comply with. We need to also consider, as a regional district, our respective employee benefit funding levels. That differs sometimes in towns, whereby the towns themselves take on that responsibility, but in a regional district such as ours, the employee benefits aspect of our operations is something that's a very significant source of commitment from the funding standpoint. We, along the way, need to review opportunities for special education programming, and where we can, we seek to provide those in the district. Sometimes that's not always possible, and those are provided out of district. And certainly, last but not least, we need to determine the appropriate number of sections or classrooms. That, of course, is directly related to enrollment, and it's a piece that I'll come back to in a few minutes. Other costs that are part of our overall operating budget include other pre-K to 12 educational staff, such as guidance counselors, nurses, technology support, and the like. Support services staff. Sometimes people, I think, forget that we also need to support the operations in the area of our food services department, our facilities and maintenance department, also our technology services. Our budget includes the necessary resources for not just the purchase and acquisition of our hardware and software, but also the growing infrastructure that in this day and age any organization, including a school and a district, needs to attend to. We're also financially obligated to pay for our operational expenses, just like a homeowner might, necessary to take care of our maintenance, to fund and pay for our utilities, as well as transportation services for a fleet of approximately 30 buses that help transport our students each and every day throughout the course of the year. So there are a vast number of expenses and costs, if you will, that are related to the budget. A couple of general comments in terms of the overall budget picture as it stands for FY17. It is indeed true to say that our enrollment in the district is declining. This has been a known fact and reality for some years, and as I've come to learn in my second year here in the superintendency, it's something that we are certainly paying a lot of attention to. But it is indeed true that our enrollment is declining for the most part as anticipated, that began a number of years ago. It's an important piece to keep in mind that while our enrollment is declining, and so too, of course, is our total student body, each and every month we also receive new students who are moving into Acton and Boxborough and into the district. It's an important point that I'll also come back to in a few minutes, and that is that the composition of our current student body is changing. It's diversifying, and with that diversification changes the needs, of which will certainly be a strong central theme to the budget request for next year. Certainly it's the reality that in trying to deal with some of these challenges, the fiscal resources change as well too, and we try in this budget request to profile that going forward. The FY17 budget, again, what we refer to as the budget for 2016 and 17, totals just in round figures a little over $83 million. That reflects an increase from the current fiscal year, or 2016, as we refer to it, as just over a little bit over $3.1 million. How that translates, something that I know is near and dear to members of the town, the respective towns that we serve. The impact of the request as it currently stands represents 4.8% increase to the member towns in assessment, and that translates for the town of Acton community members to 5%, and the town of Boxborough community members to 4%. There are a couple of key things to know as it relates to this FY17 budget request. First off, it is anticipated that revenue from the state will be flat next year. That is to say that we're not expecting any anticipated growth in revenue to help offset any increased costs that we might have. The budget that's moving forward does include a number of staffing reductions that the administration has identified for next year, most specifically around that drop in enrollment that I mentioned earlier, leading to the recommendation that we decline by 2 elementary sections, which translates, of course, to the decline or reduction of 2 elementary teachers throughout our 6 elementary schools. As we watch closely the enrollment, we anticipate that over the course of the 4 years, we may be talking about a reduction of approximately up to 12 elementary sections. Of course, the reality to keep in mind is that could change, and long-term projections for enrollment may fluctuate, and thus why we carefully review those each and every year to help try and build the next year's budget. In sum total, our district has approximately 1,000 staff. And while all of those staff are not full-time, there's a combination of full and part-time. It is true that we consider this full support of our operations with 1,000 staff members. In terms of a financial picture and how that connects with our budget. Combined, we have $52 million to support the salaries for our staff members as part of next fiscal year. Along with that, there are $13 million in fringe benefits, as mentioned earlier, responsibility for a regional school district to pay for such things as health care and other benefits. So collectively, our budget of just a little bit north of $83 million is made up of 78%, or $65 million, just to support our respective staffing. The other things that are in the budget I mentioned earlier, and for which the other financial resources go to support, and that includes our buildings and grounds and maintenance, as well as debt service for the projects that we have in hand. Beginning a year ago, last fiscal year, there were a number of things that we profiled that helped support the request for this current year's budget. Resources were identified to help support special education needs as we looked to try and expand our level of services in the elementary level to contend with our growing numbers in that area. English language learning, or ELL, as we often refer to it as, is a reality as well for our district, like so many others, that's increasing as a representative group of our student body. And so a year ago, we identified a need to continue to expand our resources in that area. Our current budget includes that, and next year's budget as well continues along that path. Psychological services were also an area profiled as part of our requests that were added for this year. In many respects, those priorities continue as we move forward to fiscal year 17. The budget priorities that were shared with the school committee earlier in the year include the following: moving towards staffing levels that help support the social, emotional, and learning needs of our increasingly diverse and complex student body; to complete a capital and educational needs assessment and space review that is ongoing; and to review class sizes, as mentioned earlier, pre-K through 12, and try to make the necessary adjustments to support those services. Within the budget presentations that will be delivered to the school committee, the administration will endeavor to provide a lot more information that helps profile those respective requests. If you are interested in finding more information about our FY17 budget request, I would urge you to visit the district's website, abschools.org. There is a growing amount of information on there that both is contained within the school committee packets, as well as a separate section on budget. And so certainly for any viewers that might be interested in learning a little bit more in detail, there's lots of information there. As I mentioned earlier, there's an upcoming public budget hearing on Thursday, February the 11th, at which time certainly you will hear where the final recommendation stands. You'll be able to view the Budget Saturday presentation as a whole that was captured by Acton TV, and we will provide a link for that off our website as well. Thank you for your time, thank you for your interest, and most importantly, thank you for your support in this important aspect of our work, and that's trying to secure the budget that will best help support our needs and delivery of services for our students in this great district. Thank you.